Hello and good day, Algebra. Warning for you, William. Anybody else still talking? Okay. We are starting off the last week of the try and picking up where we left off with PO22. Obviously, this test is going to be a try 2 test, so don't worry about it. Focus on your retakes and your math back and things like that for try 1. But we talked about converting from slope-intercept form into standard form. So just as a refresher, it's been a while for all of us. Slope-intercept form, what is it? What does it look like? Katie. Y equals mx plus b. And what is standard form? Maddie. Good. ax plus by equals c. And we talked about the main difference between these two formulas is that in slope-intercept form, x and y are on opposite sides. In the standard form, x and y are on the same side, right? So when converting from slope-intercept to standard form, one of our steps has to be get that x over to the other side. And we do that using what method? Opposite operations, right? So the sign of your x term is going to change, okay, from what it is on the right side when you move it over to the left side. What was the second step? It was actually, we wrote it as the first step here, but what was the other thing we needed to do? What's the other quirk of standard form? Paul. And why is that? What about standard form means that whole multiply by the denominator business? Yeah, so the thing with standard form is that A, B, and C can't be fractions, can't be decimals. They must be integers, okay? Which is why we use a capital B versus a lowercase b. Those two b values are different things. The capitalization there is what tells us that it's not going to be a fraction. It's not going to be a decimal. So when we have a fraction in our slope-intercept form, we've got to do stuff to get rid of it. And that's where Paul was talking about that whole multiply by the least common denominator to cancel it out. Did we do all 9 of these together or for your homework? Okay. Let's look at the bottom row here. Let's kind of talk about this. What would we do first here? Y equals negative 2/7 x plus 10. It's got that fraction. Okay, so let's deal with that. Colin? Multiply everything by 7. And the reason why we do that is because that negative 2/7, when you multiply it by 7, which is really 7 over 1, what happens with the 7 in the denominator and the 7 in the numerator? They cancel out. Okay? And so you're left with negative 2 over 1 or just negative 2x. Right? The reason why we multiply by the denominator is to cancel that out so we have just that integer value. If you actually multiply this out, negative 2/7 times 7 over 1, you'd get negative 14 over 2. Sorry, negative 14 over 7. Got the Mondays, which is equal to 2, right? And so we get negative 2x. What we can't forget to do, though, is multiply our 10 by 7 and our y by 7 as well. So we get 7y equals negative 2x plus 70. Okay, so we multiply one term by 7. We have to keep this equation balanced. So we have to multiply everything by 7. And what's our second step? Finn, what's our second step here to put this fully into standard form? We've multiplied everything by 7 to cancel that fraction out. What do we do now? X and y are on opposite sides, right? Standard form, they have to have the same side. So how are we going to move this negative 2x over? Yes. And so we're going to be adding 2x to both sides. And remember, we kind of talked about this last time. It's like we've got 0 x's over on that left side currently. So when we add 2 x's to it, when with positive 2x, because 0x plus 2x is 2x, plus 7y equals 70. Notice that sign changed. It was negative 2x on the right. We move it over, positive 2x on the left. And so that would be our final answer. 2x plus 7y equals 70. Okay? The next one, things get fun because we have that double fraction. We have 7/6 and negative 1/4. What do we do when we have that double fraction there? What do we multiply by? Multiplying by 6 will cancel out the first fraction, but not the second. Multiplying by 4 will cancel out the second fraction, but not the first. How do we do them both? Sam? Y by 12. Yeah, 12 is the least common multiple of 6 and 4, right? So if we multiply everything by 12 here, you have to be a little more careful because your numerator and your denominator, those 12s, don't just straight up cancel out like they did in the last one. We've got 7/6 times 12 over 1. What's that going to equal? 84 over 6, which is equal to 14. Okay? We do still end up with an integer, but it's not quite as, nice, not quite as clean as what happened in the first one. We can't just cancel out the 12 and the 6 and call it good. We can simplify the 12 and the 6 because 12 divided by 6 equals 2, right? And then 7 times 2 gives us the 14, so we could go that route, okay? But it's not quite as clean as what happened in the first one. That second fraction, negative 1/4 times 12. If we multiply fractions straight across, we get negative 12 over 4, which is equal to what? Negative 3. Again, we do get that integer, or we could simplify the 12 and the 4 here. 12 divided by 4 equals 3, and negative 1 times 3 gives us the negative 3 that way also. Okay? Either way works. The point is we cancel out the fraction. Sam? C? Oh, the C value is over on the right side. It's just a constant. Okay? So we get, when we multiply everything by 12, again, don't forget the y value also, we get 12y equals 14x minus 3, taking the 14 and the negative 3, kind of putting it together in our equation. And what's our last step? What do we do now? Manny? Yep, using OPS operations. Right now, we've got 0 x's on the left side there. So when we subtract 14 x's from both sides, we get a negative 14x, because 0 minus 14 is negative 14, plus 12y equals negative 3. Don't forget that sign belongs to the 3 there, right? And so there we have it. Okay? It's easy to miss signs here. It's also easy to forget to multiply every term by whatever it is that you're multiplying by. The details are going to really start to matter in the math that we're doing here now. Okay. The last one, I'm going to give you a minute or so. If you already did it, check your work. If you didn't do it now. It's another double fraction. So think about what you're going to be multiplying by. I'll pause the video and we'll come back to it shortly to talk about it. All right, back to it. Tell me what you multiplied by to eliminate those fractions. Multiplying by 10 isn't going to quite do it in one step because 8 doesn't go into 10 evenly. You'll still end up with a fraction there. Cool? 40. 40 is the least common multiple of 8 and 5, so that's what we're going to multiply by. Okay? So negative 3/8 times 40 over 1. If you multiply it using fractions, you get negative 120 over 8, which is equal to what? Negative 15. Okay? If you simplify, that looks like a 13. My 5 sometimes looks like 13, so it's weird. weird. If you simplify 40 and 8, 40 divided by 8 equals 5. And then negative 3 times 5 gives us that negative 15 that way also. Okay? 9/5 times 40 gives you 360 over 5, which is the same as what? 72. Again, we've achieved the goal of eliminating those fractions. If you multiply by canceling out, 40 divided by 5 is 8. 9 times 8 gives us that 72 there also. So we now have, since we multiplied everything by 40, 40y equals negative 15x plus 72. What's our second and final step to getting this into standard form? Katie. And we do that by doing what? Yes. Add 15x to both sides. We currently have no x's over there. We add 15 to nothing. We get 15. So 15x plus 40y equals 72 is our answer. If you didn't get a part of that, there were 2 steps we did. Check to see which step you made your mistake on. Okay, chances are it was with the fractions, multiplying by that, or if your sign's wrong, you didn't use opposite operations to move that over. Okay. Questions on converting from slope-intercept to standard form? Because the other part of this now is converting from standard form to slope-intercept form, which, what do you think our process is going to be to convert from standard to slope-intercept? Fultinsky.
I feel like you start with moving the x to the other side.
It's going to be exactly the opposite, right? To get from slope-intercept, we multiply by the denominator and then move our x's over. So to undo that, to get from standard back to slope-intercept, we're going to move our x's over again, and then put it into fraction form. Okay. So to convert from standard form to slope-intercept form, it's the opposite of what you did to get there in the first place. You're going to move your x term over using opposite operations. Okay. So let's just do that in the first one here. 6x plus 2y equals 14. We're going to start by moving our x term over. Because remember here, right? Slope-intercept formula has y by itself, which means we have to move x over to the other side here. So we're going to start by subtracting 6x's from both sides. Okay? And it's like we've got 0 x's here. So if we have 0 x's and we take away 6 of them, how many x's do we have? Negative 6. Here's the thing, though. The order for slope-intercept form matters. The x term comes first, right? So those negative 6 x's are going to be written before your constant of 14. Because remember that 14 minus 6x and negative 6x plus 14 are the same thing. As long as you keep the signs the same, you can switch the order around and everything's good. Okay? But slope-intercept form does have that x term first, so that's where we want to write it. Everyone see what I just did there? Everyone cool? Okay? Our second step is we now want to get y by itself. So what do we have to do here to get y by itself? Divide by the coefficient to y, which in this case is 2. And again, we have to divide all terms by that coefficient. Okay? Divide all terms by that coefficient to y. So we're going to be dividing by 2, right? The 2's cancel out. Y is by itself. That's what we want. Negative 6x divided by 2 is negative 3. x. And then 14 divided by 2, positive 7. Our equation in slope-intercept form is y equals negative 3x plus 7. That's it. Okay? Next one. Move x term over using opposite operations. Negative 12x plus 8y equals 56. What's our first step? How are we moving that x term over? Chris, oh my gosh. Why do I even go with first names? I don't understand it. Joseph. Yes, yes. Christopher is Joseph's older. Anyway, Joseph. Right. Since it's a negative 12x, to undo that, I want to be adding 12x. Okay, I want to move all the x's over, which is why I'm using addition or subtraction here. I'm not trying to separate the coefficient from x. I want all the x's over on the right side. It's like we have 0 x's over on the right. I'm adding 12 x's to that. So positive 12x plus 56. Again, notice my order here, right? That x term is going to be written first to put it into that slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Now, what am I dividing by? Paisley, 8. I saw several of you pull out a calculator. I assume it's to do that division of 12 divided by 8. But here's the thing. We're putting it into slope-intercept form. What is slope? Caitlin, it's a fraction, right? So even though 12 divided by 8 doesn't work out evenly, that's okay. Simplify the fraction 12 eighths. You don't need a calculator for that. What is 12 eighths in simplest form, Chase? 3 halves. Okay? 3 halves x, right? We want slope-intercept form to be a fraction. If you did take 12 divided by 8, right, you get 1.5, which is great. It's the equivalent value to 3 halves, but we don't want it in decimal form. We want it in fraction form. Okay? And then 56 divided by 8 is positive 7. So y equals 3 halves x plus 7 should be your answer. When that division by the coefficient doesn't work out evenly, that's okay. We want fractions. It is a slope. Okay? Next one, 4x minus y equals negative 3. What are we doing first? Maddie. Yes. Subtract 4x from both sides. We currently have no x's on the right. We're subtracting 4 x's from nothing, so we're going to have negative 4 over there. Don't forget that minus sign also belongs to the y. So we're left with a negative y equals a negative 4x minus 3. Right? That x term's got to go first. That subtraction sign belongs to the y. Our 3 is negative here, so it's a negative 3 over there. Nathan? Sure.
Well, it's going to be sort of for negative y, there's really a 1 in front of it. That's how I did it. So it's negative 1.
Yes, the coefficient of y here is a negative 1. So we're dividing excuse me, we're dividing everything by negative 1. That's going to cancel out this sign with the y here. So y is by itself. Negative 4x divided by negative 1 is simply a positive 4x. And then negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. And there's our equation, slope-intercept form. How are we doing? Any steps you're getting stuck on consistently here? Okay. Pay attention to signs. They'll get you. Right? Your homework for tomorrow, and you've got, in the spirit of Christmas, 17 minutes to work on it now. The other 3 that are here. And then I switched up on you a little bit. I say use the information to write the equation of the line in standard form. Okay? So for some of these, you have to write the line in slope-intercept form first, and then convert. Let's do the second one where it says passes through 4, 7, and 0, -3. In order to put this in a standard form, we're first going to have to write it in slope-intercept form. Which means what two things do we need? The slope and the y-intercept. Okay? How do we get the slope of a line when you're given two ordered pairs? Right? If we're going to put this in slope-intercept form, we have to get the slope and the y-intercept. How do we get the slope? Sam? Use our little formula, right? x1, y1, x2, y2, okay? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember this? Fun times? -3 minus 7 is a -10. 0 minus 4 is a -4, which simplifies to be positive 5/2. Right? Negative signs cancel out. 10/4 becomes 5/2. So in our slope-intercept form here, we've got m to equal 5/2. What's the y-intercept here? And how do you know? Paul? And how do you know? Right, because whenever you have an x value of 0, the y value is the y-intercept. So the one right below this, you're welcome. Spirit of Christmas. There it is there. Right? In fact, I give you the y-intercept for all of them. The y-intercept you can find right there. Okay? So the y-intercept is always given to you. Still far. That'll change shortly, but for now. Okay? Yeah. What we did today is what this entire thing here is converting from slope-intercept to standard form, which we talked about today. So yes, you are responsible for it. Yeah. I know a number of you did miss school from last week and prior, but that's why we do the videos, okay, so you can keep up, especially with the long weekend that we just had here, right? So it does say to write it in standard form. So kind of going back to what we talked about, how are we going to put this in a standard form? First step. This is the front side of PO22 here, or the first page. Colin. And why by 2? Yes. It's the denominator of that fraction. Everything gets multiplied by 2. So we get 2y equals positive 5x, right? Because multiplying by that 2, these just cancel out. And we're left with the 5 minus 6. -3 times 2, -6. Second step, opposite operations, move that x term over. So we're going to be subtracting 5x from both sides. We don't have any x's over on the left, so nothing minus 5x is -5x plus 2y equals -6. There's your equation in standard form. Okay, so for these, I give you the slope, or I give you the information to find the slope. I give you the y-intercept, or I give you the information to find it. You put that together in slope-intercept form, and then convert to standard form. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, compliments, congratulations, or criticisms? Your homework for tomorrow is to finish this entire page, and I believe that's the end of the objective. Yes, indeed it is. Okay? You got 13 minutes left to work. That's how you math.